Hello everybody, I'm Antonia and this is Noel and we are from Boxtail Soup Theatre Company and this is another Boxtail Scoop. Noel had to do that from quite a long way away because a moment ago when we did it, he knocked the fish flying. The hazards of having actions to go with your vlog title.
He's okay though.
He is okay. They're quite robust actually, really. We thought today we would show you the finished articles. So we had shown you in previous vlogs, I believe, the fish on its way to being done,
Yep.
the bird head on its way to being finished, and I think we showed the rats at some point as well.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
I think so. So we thought we'd show you them as they are now, which is having had all the finishing touches put on them. I think we mentioned before that we'd temporarily popped some button eyes into the fish and the bird head, but they looked way too cute, really. I think if we were going to do a kind of Disney version of what we're actually doing, then that might have been the right way to go, but actually we want them to look slightly nightmarish, not too horrible, much like our cats in Great Grim Tales. If you've seen that show, you'll know what I mean. And the cats, in fact, will also be part of this particular project. So we think we'll show you the fish first.
Oh, really?
No, the rats first, sorry. So the rats first. So there's two of these.
Yep. So these are really, really simple. They're just built around a cardboard cone for the head, and then obviously a couple of bits stuck on for the ears. The body is actually just a flexible strip of tape that I've wrapped over itself so that it's not sticky anymore, so that it's just fabric on both sides. And then obviously we've built these little cardboard half tubes onto them to give them a little spine, and then just popped some cardboard feet and sort of little paws on there. They've got a little bit of weight in their feet at the bottom, and part of the reason that we wanted to do that was to make sure that their tails stuck up at the end like that. So that's how you get that sort of little effect, is they've just got a couple of coins there in the feet so that they always flop down that way, which means you can land them nicely, and it means that when they rear up or whatever, they keep their feet on the floor and the tail goes up. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say about them really. They're very, very simple, very quick, and as we mentioned before, I think because they're not kind of featured, they're more like set dressing, or they're more like incidental characters that pop up. So they just had to sort of keep the same aesthetic and look like they were part of the gang. They're quite cute though, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. So we've given them very dark. The eyes are meant to look like they're holes, but we didn't want to make them actually whole because then obviously you'd potentially see through into the underside of the pizza box that their heads are made of. So they're just some circles of fabric cut out. And then they're dressed with some of our text fabric, which you'll have noticed on other things in our shows, and some bits of white fabric as well, just to kind of tie them all together. Like we said, the cats from Great Grim Tales are part of this particular thing as well. So sorry that we can't really explain what it is, but just that they're part of the same world. So these needed to look like they belonged with those cats.
Yeah, they've got a sort of skeletal look.
Yeah.
Overall, and actually the text fabric works really nicely as part of that, just to give them a little bit of texture, and the white as well is important, to give a few changes in colour and that sort of thing.
So then with the fish, we've added a tail to the back, just a sort of short tail, so that then if you wiggle it along, it just looks a bit more like it's sort of swimming, I guess. It's not based on a real. It's based on an anglerfish very loosely, but it was out of your own head, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I didn't look at any pictures of anglerfish. I just kind of.
It's not anatomically accurate.
No, certainly not.
But again, you can see we've got the same principles, so the nice dark hollowed out eyes, text fabric and white fabric, just to give it a little bit of detail. And I really like him.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and you mentioned the eyes before. As you may remember, when we showed it when it was part way through, we'd put a couple of those little button eyes in. The funny thing is that even when we're making them, it's actually difficult to get a sense of whether the puppet works as a whole if it doesn't have any eyes.
At all, yes, absolutely.
So we often end up putting something temporary in there just to give you a kind of focal point in the face, it just gives you more of a sense of whether it works overall.
Yeah, and it helps you to add the rest of the detail, just some kind of representation of the eyes. We've often even just drawn things on a little bit of pizza box and just stuck them in before we had lots of buttons available.
So, as you said, they weren't the right thing for it. They were a little bit too cute. So he is looking a little bit more sinister.
And then he's also, if you open his, I think you already have, but if you open his mouth nice and wide, he's got a nice big, he's got a black inside the mouth now, so that it looks like it's hollow rather than when it was white. Obviously, it wasn't quite the same. Yeah. So you're looking very good.
Cool.
And then finally, we've got our bird, which we've only really shown you before. We only showed you the head because that's all we had. Sorry, it's a bit precarious that. Only got the head, but the body we then made, and I'll show you. It's quite big, so I'm not sure how much it'll get into the shot.
If you do it in between us here, and I move out of the way,
so you can
I might
see,
move the fish.
I think you can probably see this. We'll do a little bit at the end, like we normally do, so that you can see properly. But you can see maybe if I tip down like that, you can see what the wings are like. And to the side there, you can see what he looks like, and then he would flap like this. This mechanism for the wings that Noel made, and I feel like you kind of slightly invented it for that particular other tutorial. There's a tutorial we've got on our channel, the flapping bird puppet. This is exactly the same mechanism, just made on a larger scale. So if you're interested in having a go at making anything with this similar mechanism,
I'll drop a link to that tutorial at the top of the video.
But for this, all we really needed it to do, is to sort of saw in and flap. So that's what we've gone for. Obviously, if the puppet was going to be featured in a full length show and it was a main character, we probably would articulate the neck. We probably would make it so that its beak opened as well. But for the purposes of what we need it for, it needs to make a good entrance by flying in and flapping around a bit. So it wasn't necessary to make the head move.
Again, it's a kind of an incidental character, so it wants to be visually striking in the job that it does when it comes in and flaps, but then it doesn't really have much to do beyond that.
No. So sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's quite simply made as well out of light foam board to make it nice and light and easy to operate. The mechanism is really, really simple. We've used that on that tutorial. We used it for the sea hares in Great Grim Tales. Because even though it's in Little Grim rather, even though it's simple, it does actually make a really nice, controllable movement, which means you can really get a nice flap on it. You've done a lovely job of cutting out those wings. They look brilliant.
They're only out of paper. They're nothing particularly special in that sense. They're just cut out of large black paper, and then the same match the tail.
They look great.
And then I just decided we've gone for this sort of slightly distressed look with the whole thing, so I wanted to give that kind of raggy look to the wings. So I cut little bits out, cut little holes out, and then again added the text fabric and the white just to keep everything cohesive and like that it had a consistent aesthetic through the whole thing. On a point of sort of practicality, the tail is removable, it just slots out, and the head is also removable. It's held on just by a strap of Velcro, just to make it that little bit more practical when you have to transport it, so that we can take that off and put the wings down flat and that kind of thing. Exactly.
Otherwise it would be a little bit unwieldy to...
I mean, it's quite delicate. I think if we were going to make it for a show where we knew we were going to have to do hundreds of performances, we probably would make the wings out of something a little bit more robust.
For sure. Yeah.
But as it is, it's quite effective, and we're pretty pleased with all of those. Yeah. I think it's worth very briefly saying that obviously for when we're trying to create something for a specific thing where there's a specific world, if you like, we like to keep the aesthetic coherent across everything, so that it feels like everything is part of the same place, the same world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've done other things this week as well, haven't we?
Indeed we have.
There are unfortunately things that we can't show you. There are also things that as yet wouldn't be very easy to show you. Noel made a giant sort of cardboard staircase, which is getting walls and things like that.
But we've got other interesting bits and pieces. Over the next few weeks we'll be able to sort of eventually show everything, and there are some really interesting bits. The wings that we were working on, we've sort of finished those off as a pair of rainbow wings.
So we'll probably show you those next week maybe.
They're working really nicely, so that'll be good. And these cardboard stairs, looking very dramatic, so that's good.
And if you didn't notice last week, Noel put up a couple of other tutorials as well. So there's now quite a few tutorials on the tutorial section of our YouTube channel. We've got the flapping bird, which will teach you how to make these wings. There's the new ones. There's a hand puppet frame. Is that what you put up?
Well, there's a hand puppet made out of
paper yes.
with a template, and then there's a puppet frame, the cardboard puppet frame, in the similar way that we make the puppet heads.
And then there's also a little, very sweet little kind of, he looks a bit like a robot, I suppose, for want of a better explanation of him. We call him Cuphead Joe. I think we showed you him in a previous vlog. There's a tutorial of how to make him as well. So you can have a go at any of those if you wish to.
Yeah. So it might seem a little bit disorganised or slightly scatty this week. We've got a lot going on. You should realise that just out of frame, literally just outside of what you can see on camera, there's cardboard, there's puppets, there's glue, there's stuff just lying and stacked up everywhere because we've got a lot going on. But hopefully it was interesting to see the progress on these ones, and yeah, we'll be able to show you a bit more of the other stuff next time. In the meantime, if you've been watching these videos and enjoying them, do please give us a thumbs up, give us a like, leave us a comment, or possibly even subscribe. That'd be great. Thanks for watching.